It's not that she's afraid of the wedding. She's afraid of the wedding night. Innocent girls are terrified of the one-eyed snake.
Ah, yes. Who could forget that classic 90s movie trope? The horny grandma.
I like his tight butt.
They put that line in the trailer. Julia Roberts was probably at the height of her fame as America's sweetheart in the late 90s to early 2000s. And during this time, she made 2 movies that I feel represent everything that is wrong with romantic comedies, even though I also kind of love them. Today, I would like to talk about one of those movies, Runaway Bride. Released in 1999, this is a movie with no heroes, no good characters, no one to root for, just a lawless wasteland of jerks. If this movie ended with a meteor instead of a wedding, it would be the greatest film ever made. There is such a unique moral sensibility in this movie that if you put your ear to the ground, you can hear it still echoed in Hallmark movies to this very day. I'm sorry if this is your favorite movie and I am about to be ripping it apart. I am definitely taking some big swings at a pretty classic 90s rom-com. And the thing is, I don't dislike this movie. And that was a weird double negative. I enjoy watching this movie. It quiets the existential dread and helps put my brain into a pleasant state of equilibrium that can only be achieved by watching rom-coms. But one day, it just clicked. These characters are horrible people. Okay, so here is the bare bones synopsis from start to finish. So, spoilers. Richard Gere plays Ike, a New York City columnist who writes an article about a small town woman, Maggie Carpenter, played by Julia Roberts, who has left a bunch of dudes at the altar. Maggie gets Ike fired, so Ike heads to her town to do a follow-up piece about her most recent upcoming wedding. At first, he and Maggie butt heads, but then they end up falling in love. Of course. She leaves her current fiancé to marry Ike. Surprise, surprise, she pulls the runaway bride stunt again and leaves Ike at the altar. But after some soul searching, Maggie realizes that she just didn't know herself well enough to fully commit, but now she does. So she gifts him her running shoes and they get married. Happily ever after. And now I want to walk through all of the absolutely terrible things that the characters say and do during this movie. I will break this up into 3 sections. First, we'll talk about Ike, whose actions cover the beginning of the movie, and then we'll talk about the townsfolk, whose actions cover the middle of the movie, and then Maggie, who will bring us on home through the end of the movie. There is overlap between the 3 sections, but I feel like this format makes the most sense. Part 1. Homer Eisenhower Graham. By the way, I feel like Richard Gere and George Costanza have very similar voices.
Fisher, come on. Are you really not there? All right, cool. I'll talk to you later.
Nobody tells me it's them, not me. If it's anybody, it's me.
Like, you can hear it, right? So the inciting incident of this movie is when Ike meets a drunk guy in a bar. You know, the most reliable journalistic source. And this guy tells Ike about a woman in his hometown who convinces men to marry her and then runs away. Like, literally runs away from the altar.
They call her the Runaway Bride.
He almost sings a Katy Perry song.
They're hot, they're cold, they're high, they're low.
They're up, they're down.
And Ike, the intrepid reporter full of journalistic integrity, prints this story, full of egregious factual errors and hyperbolic rhetoric. And now it's in USA Today, a national publication. Apparently, he included identifying information about Maggie, like her full name, the name of her town, her place of work.
And in Hale, Maryland, where she helps run the family hardware store, she's known as Miss Maggie Carpenter.
But he didn't actually fact-check anything that he heard from the drunk guy. He just published it verbatim.
Yes, I have enclosed a list of the gross factual misrepresentations in your article. There are 15.
Maggie is currently engaged to Detective Stabler from Law & Order SVU, and this article further damages her already shaky reputation in her small town.
Her bridal exploits were taken to task by New York columnist Ike Graham in USA Today.
She writes to Ike's editor, pointing out all of his factual errors and getting him, rightfully, fired.
Journalism lesson number 1. If you fabricate your facts, you get fired.
Rather than being sorry, Ike is just kind of a jerk about it. This is his personality.
Lesson number 2, never work for your former spouse.
That has nothing to do with it.
So Ike decides that he needs to vindicate himself by stalking Maggie for a follow-up story. And here is where I start screaming into the endless void. He's following her around town, showing up everywhere she is, interviewing her exes. He's constantly telling her that she is going to run away from this wedding and he's going to be there to watch it.
You're gonna do the same thing to this poor schmuck number 4 that you did to the previous 3. You're gonna run again. I'm not leaving until you do.
And presumably write about it and publish it in USA Today. Maggie's at the bakery trying to pick out cake toppers, and Ike's there, ruining it, mocking her.
Bam, 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 bam. Oh, help me.
Ike shows up at a baseball game and drinks Maggie's beer.
Hey, that's Maggie's seat.
Yes, and this must be her beer, too.
Ew. When Maggie breaks into his hotel room, she finds this note.
I should get all those guys to propose. She's not that beautiful.
Maggie should have just sued Ike for libel and harassment and been done with it. Part 2. The townsfolk. By townsfolk, I mean Maggie's friends and family and loved ones and neighbors and fiance, just everybody in her life. So Ike shows up at Maggie's home, completely uninvited, and her friends and family all end up loving him, despite the fact that it makes Maggie uncomfortable. Like, this guy is actively harassing her and trying to ruin her life. But they think that he's just a great guy. They give him a videotape that contains all of the footage from her failed weddings. That's how we learned that the drunk guy was her third fiance. It's also implied that the cake at her first wedding was actually pot brownies. The bakery lady in town finds Ike so charming. Even Detective Stabler likes him.
Yes!
You weren't making friends with this man, are you?
His name in this is Bob. He's a high school sports coach. He's not a member of an elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit. Ike visits all of her previous attempted failed grooms, and they are all more than willing to talk with him. And her second fiance is even a priest now. Her first fiance shows Ike a photo of Maggie topless.
Maggie Carpenter, topless, in a public arena.
And Ike taunts her with it.
I see, it was a very chilly evening.
Ike has to drive all the way from Maryland back up to New York to interview Maggie's third fiance, aka drunk guy at the bar. This movie was filmed in a small town in Maryland called Berlin. So I Google mapped the drive between Berlin, Maryland and New York City, and it's roughly 4 hours. Fiance 3 immediately realizes that Ike is falling for Maggie, and he is pissed. It's like a very personal betrayal of the bro code. I give you fake facts about my ex-fiance so you can write a hit piece that ruins your career, and in return, you don't date her. Bro code. The whole town loves this guy for no reason.
Wow, there's Ike with the mayor and the police chief.
I mean, the women think he's attractive, and the men I think he's attractive. I don't know. I don't know what siren-like pull he has over these people. Since Ike is now paying Maggie for an interview, she decides she's going to use that money to buy a more expensive wedding dress. And the lady at the dress shop won't even sell it to her.
It's just a lot of money to spend on one of your dresses, Maggie. After all, you only wear them for about 10 minutes or so.
To her face, she's like, I can't even make a sale off of you. It's too sad. Maggie's dad is an alcoholic. There's a scene where Maggie has to go pick him up at the bar because he's too drunk to drive, and he can't even walk by himself. And it's daylight. And of course, Ike is there, but at this point in the movie, that's by coincidence instead of stalking. Maggie and Ike go on a nighttime drive where they exchange sad backstories. Then the car breaks down and they have a romantic walk across a field where they bond even more. This leads us to the rehearsal dinner. Oh, I'm sorry, the rehearsal luau. All of the terrible behavior of Maggie's friends and family and the townsfolk culminates at the rehearsal luau, which turns into a roast.
May the pitter-patter of little feet not be Maggie.
These people seem like they don't even like Maggie.
May the gifts be returnable.
I took mine back.
Maggie's dad has a cruel joke that we hear him make twice in the movie, but you get the sense that he says this a lot.
Maggie may not be Hale's longest running joke, but she is certainly the fastest. Maggie may not be Hale's longest running joke, but she is certainly the fastest.
And Ike, because he is transforming into good guy love interest rather than vindictive stalker, defends Maggie by publicly wishing ill on all of her loved ones.
May you find yourselves the bullseye of an easy target.
Listen, first of all, if I was paying for a big luau for my friends and family to celebrate my 4th wedding, they would not start insulting me during the dinner. And second, if they did, I would start flipping tables. Third of all, I wouldn't host a luau for my rehearsal dinner. That's stupid. It'd be pirate themed. Part 3, Maggie the Man-Eater. Maggie herself is not a hapless victim of circumstance. She's not the lone bastion of sanity in this town of crazy people. At worst, she is a manipulative, sociopathic life ruiner. And at best, she's a selfish and troubled woman who needs an intervention instead of a bridal shower. In addition to the litany of broken hearts in her wake and the ongoing public humiliation of her grooms, Maggie's dad paid for her first 3 weddings.
But I'm actually able to plan and pay for so many weddings.
Detective Stabler is Maggie's 4th, and she said that she's paying for this one.
Not this one. This one's on me.
That's a lot of money. If these were just courthouse weddings, like that would be one thing, but each wedding we've seen has been a whole affair. And weddings are expensive. The one we saw in the intro to this movie had a horse. Is your alcoholic dad gonna be able to retire? The bridesmaids probably had to pay for their dresses each time. And did she have multiple bridal showers and bachelorette parties? What about gifts? These costs add up for people.
I took mine back.
Maggie and her first fiance both got rose tattoos, except that Maggie lied. Hers was fake. His was real. And he still has it. We learn that Maggie's best friend is married to a man who Maggie dated in high school, and Maggie still kind of flirts with him, even though it makes her best friend uncomfortable. Maggie's whole thing is that she has no sense of self, so she just pretends to be what she thinks these men want. It's not really clear how much is conscious deception versus a subconscious need to be loved. But either way, when she begins to face the very real ramification of being locked into this fake life forever, she panics. Ike identifies this trait by asking all of the disappointed grooms how Maggie likes her eggs.
Scrambled with salt, pepper and dill, same as me.
I'm gonna have the garden omelet, egg whites only.
That sounds good. I'll have the same.
Poached. Same as me.
So throughout the movie, Ike and Maggie end up spending a lot of time together, and over the course of, I don't know, a week, they fall in love, despite her already being engaged. These bangs are in my eyes. There's a scene where Ike says what an ideal marriage proposal would be, and Maggie seems charmed. Ike seems taken with Maggie when she tries on her wedding dress. Nothing like seeing a woman in another man's dress. Wait. Maggie gives Ike a rare album that she knows he'll like. At the rehearsal luau, Maggie is anxious because she hasn't seen Ike in like a whole day. And then when he finally gets there, she's relieved, and he also stands real close to her. There could be a darker version of this movie where Ike is intentionally trying to make her fall in love with him to sabotage her wedding, because then if she runs away from the altar, he gets a good story and his reputation is vindicated. But even though that seems like it would fit within his character, that's not what's happening here. After the rehearsal luau roast, Maggie is mad at Ike for standing up for her while also making a scene, so they fight.
You humiliated me.
No, Maggie, I defended you. Humiliating you is what everyone else did in there.
He brings up the egg thing.
You were so lost you didn't even know what kind of eggs you like.
Turns out Maggie can psychoanalyze him too.
I read your columns. You never once wrote anything about yourself. I am not the only one that is lost.
It's a weird interaction because this seems like a couple's fight, but they are not a couple. And they're walking the fine line of admitting that they have feelings for each other. But this is literally her wedding rehearsal luau. There is a ridiculous scene where they're rehearsing the wedding, and presumably they would have already rehearsed the wedding, like before the wedding rehearsal luau, but they're doing it again. And they have Ike stand in for Detective Stabler.
Ike, come here. Yeah. All right, you're me. Stand here so she knows how far she's got to come, honey. I'm gonna walk with you.
It's the type of contrived garbage that I both love and hate. They're just staring intently at each other. And then right there, in the church, they kiss. Literally right in front of Detective Stabler. Maggie's best friend screams, and they just keep going. No! And it's not just a little peck. Like, Detective Stabler tries to physically place himself between them, and they act like they don't even see him. This is insane.
You want to tell me how long this has been going on?
About a minute.
It was longer for me.
Really?
Ike is a jerk about it.
What do you expect me to say to this?
Well, Bob, you could say, well, I hope you two will be really happy together.
This is his personality.
I hope you two will be really happy together.
Yeah, I would have punched him too. So the engagement is off. I guess the wedding's canceled, right?
We have to talk. We have to talk.
Right?
Well, you do have a dress.
Oh no.
I'm getting married.
You have known each other less than 2 weeks. You met under contentious circumstances where you were trying to ruin each other's lives. You think you're in love and should get married? It is just a parade of red flags. No one in either of their lives seems to think that they should slow down.
I just believe he's listening to you. Ike is getting married.
Maggie literally cheated on her fiancé right in front of his face with the man who wrote an article full of lies about her to ruin her life. And all of her friends are like, "You go, girl. I think he's the one." Anyway, the wedding is a media circus. Surprise, surprise! The Runaway Bride leaves Ike at the altar. Sponsored by FedEx.
No, Maggie!
Where do you think she's going?
Wherever it is, she'll be there by 10:30 tomorrow.
However, she ultimately realizes that she needs to figure out who she is, how she likes her eggs. Because people can only like eggs one way. And if you don't have strong egg-related opinions, you have no sense of self. So she goes on a long, in-depth journey of self-discovery that lasts for, I don't know, a week, a month? It's not really clear. Ike spends that entire time just walking around New York City in a trench coat. Hey kid, you want to buy a Rolex? Maggie breaks into Ike's apartment to talk to him. He has a really nice apartment. He's clearly making a Carrie Bradshaw salary. She's straightened her hair, which I guess is also symbolic of how she's straightened out her life. Either that or these scenes were added later in reshoots, I don't know. We learn that Maggie likes Eggs Benedict.
I love Eggs Benedict. I hate all the other kinds of eggs.
How can you only like Eggs Benedict? Because the egg component is very similar to poached eggs, or even sunny side up eggs. Is the part you actually like just the Canadian bacon? And is it maybe that you don't really like eggs at all? She gifts Ike her running shoes, which is an empty gesture because we can see her shoes in 3 of her 4 weddings and she's not wearing sneakers. And then she proposes. She gives him the same speech that he rattled off earlier in the movie as his ideal proposal. In the end, they get married on a hillside. Just them and the officiant. Well, after it's done, her loved ones come running over the hillside, so I guess they were hiding in some tall grass or something. Then we get a classic 90s movie wacky ending montage of everyone reacting to the news. Part 4, the part I didn't mention at the beginning. Speak now or forever hold your peace. The thing is, all of the performances in this movie are great. And I really like the sets and the locations. The dialogue can be witty and charming. And the movie is structurally solid. It has good camera work and editing. I really do love the small town setting. Do I want to move to Berlin, Maryland now? Maybe. Did I use Google Street View to walk through all of the main streets and look at the little shops and stuff? Definitely. And I do kind of like the running theme of the egg thing. There are some funny scenes too. Like when Maggie and Ike have to cross that field and Ike is afraid of snakes.
Come on, come on, come on.
Ike's little sanctuary when Maggie's ringing the bell.
Sanctuary. Sanctuary.
The way Detective Stabler shows his support for Ike at the wedding.
You look terrible.
Except that all the characters are terrible. It's like the scriptwriter had a general premise in mind, a few scenes, some good pieces of dialogue, but he had no idea how to put them all together. Runaway Bride had such high expectations. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere together again for the first time since Pretty Woman, directed by Gary Marshall. It's not entirely this movie's fault. There was something about this era where we, as in general movie-going audiences, were willing to shell out money for entertainment that encouraged us to root for romantic leads who were cheaters and terrible people. Yay, I hope these unrepentant douchebags find true love. I think this is the meanest video I've ever done. I know this wig is not very close to Julia Roberts' hair in the movie, and these bangs have been driving me crazy this whole time, but this is a wig I already had, and whenever I can rewear a wig rather than buy a new one, I think that's a good decision. But what I am bummed about is that I got this big white bow that has these long tails, and I thought it looked very bridal, but you can't even see it on camera, It's just, you can just know that it's there.